Good day, everyone. In preparation for writing a concept paper, it is important that we know how to define, and today we're going to be learning about definition. Definition is a mode of paragraph development that answers the questions: what is it? What does it mean? What are its special features? The word to be defined can be an object, a concept, a person, a place, or a phenomenon. Why is definition important? It is important because it clarifies the meaning of a word or a concept, and it also limits the scope of the particular word or concept. Bakit kailangan mong ilimit? Why do we have to limit? It is because a word can have different definitions depending on the area of expertise and depending on what angle you would like to focus its meaning. So it is important that we limit the scope so that we can control and we can avoid misinterpretations, vague notions, and or broad ideas. And this time, there are different techniques of defining that I would like you to learn. The most common is what we call the definition by classification. The most common definition or the most common formal definition that you might have learned back in grade 10. This is an example of it. Kindly take a look at the example. You have the term, the genus, and the differentia. All these three are the parts of a formal definition, particularly definition by classification. The term is definition. Okay, so the term that you see here is definition. And then the genus or the category definition is falling under is the mode of paragraph development. So there are different kinds of mode of paragraph development. Back in reading and writing, you would recall that you have a description, you have narration, and so on and so forth. And in this case, it has to be different from all the other modes of paragraph development, and it can be different in the sense that you have this differentiation which is that answers the questions: what is it, what does it mean, or what is its special features, or what are its special features. So here you get to define what definition is using the term, genus, and differentia. Moving on. Not all words or concept can be defined using the formal definition. For instance, we have what we call the abstract concepts. These are the concepts that you cannot just easily define because it's complicated. That there is more to it than its genus and differentia. So this time we're using what we call extended definition. The extended definition is needed to define abstract concepts. It allows you to broaden your definition by using analogy, metaphors, comparison and contrast, descriptions, analysis, functions, etymology, and the semantic origin. Here you get to see some of the examples on how democracy as an abstract concept was defined. In the first one, you get to see that this is a form of government in which all eligible citizens participate equally, either directly or through elected representatives in the proposal, development, and creation of laws. This is the formal definition that we're used to having. This is definition by classification. On the other hand, you may also have some sort of an etymology. Etymology is where a word or how a word originated. In this case, democracy came from the Greek words demokratia, demos, and kratos. And here you get to see somewhat a historical background where you can understand how democracy was coined into a word. Also, you may have the antonym. Ano yung kabaliktaran? Yung kabaliktaran niya, mas maintindihan mo yung salita kung alam mo o ibinigay mo yung kabaliktaran niya. For example, you would know who Ma'am Karen is if you say that Ma'am Karen is the opposite of Ma'am Lai, because Ma'am Lai is a Filipino teacher and Ma'am Karen is an English teacher. That way, you're also making use of what we call analogy. So here, analogy is telling us some of the characteristics or how something is related to another word. And that way, you can understand the definition of something by using this way. Well, for number 5, while theoretically these definitions are in opposition, in practice the distinction has been blurred historically. So here you provide additional information. So, distinction has been blurred historically. It gives you something to know more about it. And then for number 6, the political system of classical Athens, for example, granted democratic citizenship to an elite class of free men and excluded slaves and women from political participation. Here, you understand what democracy is by making use or by in reference to democratic citizenship. You understand that democracy is uh, is only for the elite class of free men. Therefore, when a country is experiencing democracy or a democratic government, it means that you have freedom. So you see there, freemen. So a democracy can be understood as something that is given to freemen. And a country can only have democracy when you don't have slavery. Number 7, in virtually all democratic governments throughout ancient and modern history, democratic citizenship consisted of an elite class until full enfranchisement was won for all adult citizens in most modern democracies through the suffrage movements of the 19th and 20th centuries. Historical definition is also important. Also, for number 8, you get to see that this English word dates to the 16th century from the older Middle French and Middle Latin equivalents. It is showing you the etymology of the word. Saan ba nanggaling yung salita o kung kailan ba siya nagsimulang ginamit, and so on and so forth. So here are some of the things or some of the definitions that were done in the previous page that we have discussed. The first one was a formal definition. So a formal definition is where the term that belongs to a class or a category, and then you distinguish it from all the others that are falling in that same category. And then you also have some sentences for sentence number 3, the term originates. This is the origin of the word. So for the origin of the word, you use etymology. So etymology is where the word is coming from. If you notice, it came from a Greek word, and then it explained what the meaning of the word is, as how they should be understood better. So it is a rule of the people. It is for the people, and wherein the people are ruling or has the power, or they have the power over a government. And then for number 4 and number 5 sentences, you have used the opposites. So this is what we call definition by contrast. Okay, the contrast is further established on sentences 6 and 7. Let's take a look at them. So here, you have sentences 6, and then you have sentences 7. So you have further definitions, but in this sense, you're contrasting it. So the political system in classical Athens is compared to a democracy, and also the same with sentence number 7. Now, aside from formal definitions, you have etymology. Yeah, you have etymology, you have definition by analysis, you also have by contrast, and you have definition by example. Let's take a look at some of the things that were mentioned. So here, kindly take a look that you can use the synonym or how similar a word is. You may also use the antonym. Antonym was seen here on page and example number 4. So example number 4, it mentioned about the opposite of what democracy is. So if it's a rule of an elite, then that is not democracy. Okay, then you also have the definition by function. So what does it do? What is the term doing? And you also have definition by analogy, wherein you're comparing the term to another object, concept, or idea that shares the same characteristic as the term being defined. So you have the same class, but then you have differentiation, so you can use that for an analogy. So this just like what I have given you for an example between me and Mamlai. So we're using analogy there because we're having the same characteristics, we're both teachers, but then there is something that is differentiating us from being teachers. I am an English teacher and she is a Filipino teacher. You also can use definition by comparison and contrast, and definition by negation. So these are some of the examples or the techniques that you might use when you are using when you're having definition. So first is you can have the formal definition. Yeah, you may have the formal definition. You may have the origin of the word. You may have contrast or the opposites. Yeah, by contrast. And then you may have etymology. You can have analysis. You have contrast. You have example. You may have synonym. You may have it by function. Sorry. You may have it by function. You may have it by analogy. You may have it by comparison and contrast, and you can have it by negation. So, as your written work number 1, you're going to be writing the definition of what a concept paper is by making use of at least four of the techniques that we have discussed in today's lesson. Okay, so written work number 1 is a definition of a concept paper using 4 of the techniques that we have discussed. You may make use of your references. Just don't forget to cite your references using APA style. This is just like the same with the paraphrasing that we do. So, but this time you're focusing more on defining what a concept is or what a concept paper is. Thank you very much, everyone, and I'll be expecting your submission on my table the next meeting. If you can submit it by today, that will be much more appreciated because you're no longer encouraged to take home whatever you're doing in class. Okay, thank you so much, and until next meeting, goodbye.